Good morning or good afternoon. It's Miss Bauer here, and today we're going to talk about arcs and sectors of a circle. So within a circle, which we're just going to use a pizza for our example, we've talked about arcs before, and minor arcs and major arcs. And the arc would be the crust of the pizza, if you want to think of it that way. So the arc would be like the crust of the pizza. The part of the pizza that would be the sector would be like the actual part inside. So that would be like a slice of it. So people like to think of a sector almost like a triangle, but it's not quite a triangle. It's more like a slice of the pizza with that curved edge. So just remember arc, crust, sector, slice. So what we're going to get into today is not necessarily the measure of it. So like, for example, if that was a 50-degree angle, then the measure of the arc would be 50 degrees. But like, how much crust are you actually going to get? Like, what's the length of it? Like, if the circumference was 12 feet long and we have a 30-degree slice, like, how long would that piece of crust be? Or like, how much actual like space would you have for toppings? So that's what we're going to get into. So it's not measure, it's more of the arc length, and it's the sector area. It's the space that you have. So we have two formulas for this, and so it always has your angle that's going to be over 360. It's that measure over 360. So for the arc, it's always the angle over 360. Because 360 is a full circle, and it's the same thing with the sector formula. They're both going to start out the same way with an angle over 360. And then to find that arc length, we're just setting up proportion and comparing. So if you think about it, like the crust or the arc, that piece, that's part of the whole, and the whole would be the circumference. So the angle over 360, so part over whole equals arc length, part over whole is circumference. Now, we have two formulas for circumference. We have 2 pi r or pi d, so pi times the diameter. It doesn't matter which one you use, but we'll do part over whole, and then we just kind of cross multiply. That's it. Now, for the sector, for the slice, it still is the angle over 360 because it's still part over whole. But now the part would be the sector area, and that would be the part. And if you think of it, the whole would be the whole area of the circle. And area of a circle would just be pi r squared. And then those formulas are on your formula chart. They just look a little bit different. So they did like the measure of the arc over 360 second. So I said angle over 360. They said the measure of the arc. Same thing, but I did that part first. And then they have like arc length over circumference. Area of the sector over the area formula. I just kind of switched it around. But you're more than welcome to add these formulas to your formula chart if you prefer mine over the ones that are on there. So this is how these problems work. If it says find the area of the red sector, so I'm finding the area of the red sector. Well, the angle that goes with that red sector is 120 over 360 equals, I don't know the area of the sector, so that's going to be x over whatever the full area is of the circle. So to find the full area of the circle, that would just be pi r squared. And the radius is 14, so pi times 14 squared. And then 14 squared would be 196 pi. We're going to leave most of these in terms of pi. I just feel like it's a little bit simpler that way. So 120 over 360 would be the red equals x over 196 pi. And then we're going to cross multiply. So 360 times x would just be 360x. And then 120 times 96 would be a fairly big number. It'd be 11,520 pi. And then just to find x, I'm going to divide both sides by 360. So I'm cross multiplying and dividing with these proportions. Part over whole equals part over whole. Cross multiply, divide. And that should give you, oh, my bad, it's 23,520. which would give you 65.3 repeating pi. My apologies, I'm using a phone calculator because my other one's broken. So that would just be 65.3 repeating pi whenever I cross multiply and divide, and then my units would be phi squared. And then that's it. So now I'm going to do the same thing to find the area of the blue sector, but now I need to figure out what's the angle that goes with the blue sector. And if a full circle is 360 degrees and I have 120 degrees, well then I could just do 360 minus 120, and that's going to tell me this blue part over here. So if I do that, 360 minus 120 tells me that the measure of the blue sector is 240 degrees. So I'm going to set this up again. So 240 over 360 equals x over the area of the circle. Well, I'm going to use the same area that I did before. It's still 196 pi. And now I'm just going to cross multiply and divide. So 360 times x would be 360x equals 196 times 240 would be 47,040 pi. Don't forget our pi. Whenever we leave it in terms of pi, we don't actually type pi in, but we do need to remember to write it. And then when I divide that by 360, because I'm going to cross multiply divide, I get that x is 130.6 repeating pi feet squared because it's area. So if I take the red one and the blue part and I add them together, it should equal the full area of the circle. If I have this red slice right here, and that's where 65.3 repeating pi, and then the blue slice has an area of 130.6 repeating pi. If I take these two sectors together and I add them up, we get 196 pi, which is like the full area of our pizza, the full area of our circle. So remember that sector goes with slice. It's like how much space do I have right in there? But arc would go with circumference because it's the crust. It's along the edge. So let's take a look at another problem. Which pizza place below would yield the biggest slice, and then how do you know? And our calculations are going to back up our answer. So notice it doesn't say which pizza slice do you prefer, because you might be like me and you might not. Like, I like Pizza Hut and I like Papa John's, but I feel like there's better pizza out there. But the question wants to know which place is going to yield the biggest slice. So which place is going to give you the bigger slice of pizza? So Pizza Hut has a 72-degree slice with a 10-inch diameter, but at Papa John's you get a 60-degree slice with a 12-inch diameter. So larger like angle, smaller diameter, smaller angle, larger diameter. So how are we going to figure out? Well, we can find the area of each sector and then compare those. So sector area, if we go back to this formula right here, it starts out with the angle over 360 is going to be x over the total area, and then I'm just going to cross multiply. So if Pizza Hut has a 72-degree slice, that would be 72 over 360 equals x over, and then I need to do the whole. I need to find the total area of this pizza right here. So if the 10-inch diameter, that'd make the radius 5. And if you can't remember your formulas, just remember they're on here. Area of a circle is pi r squared. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to do pi r squared. So to find the area of that, pi r squared would be pi times 5 squared, which would make that total area 25 pi. And in a second, I'm going to cross multiply and divide. To set up Papa John's, it's really similar, but now it's going to be 60 over 360 because the angle was 60 degrees. So the measure of this slice had a 60-degree slice. And then this would be x over, well, the diameter is 12. The radius, remember, is half, so the radius would be 6. So pi r squared. So pi times 6 squared would make the area of that pizza 36 pi. I'm going to give you a minute to cross multiply each of these and then figure out which one is going to give you the bigger slice. Which one's going to give you the bigger slice? So whenever you cross multiply and divide here, we get 5 pi inches squared. And then over here, whenever we cross multiply and divide, we're going to get 6 pi inches squared. So which one's bigger? Which one has the bigger slice? Papa John's has the bigger slice. So that's our answer. And if I asked you, how do you know? You would say, well, one slice has an area of 6 pi inches squared, while the other one has an area of 5 pi inches squared. And 6 pi is clearly bigger than 5 pi. So that's how we find our sector area. We're going to pick up with the next video with how do we find arc length. So it's the same as sector area, but remember that sectors go with the area formula, whereas the arc length formula goes with circumference. And then we'll do a few problems on working backwards. See you in a bit.